Hey y'all, welcome to a new video. So today we're going to be experimenting. I have several products here that feel like they should be too light for my skin tone, but after close examination and multiple uses, it turns out that I am actually very light, but I just have some redness that makes my skin pull cooler. We're going to swatch all of my base products, all of my foundations, all of my concealers on my face so that I'm going to do like a nice blown out swatch along with a nice thick swatch so we can actually see color versus how it blends. Everything I have here, for the most part, matches my skin tone. I also want to do a quick comparison of the new Ritual Defy Soft Sorcery Concealer with the lab sample that I purchased about a year ago. So that is the plan for today's video. Let's get into it. All right, I brought you all in a little closer so that you can actually see. I have some melasma, I have some pigmentation, I have a little bit of freckling, but mostly it's always my nose that's red. So we're gonna start with, I wanna talk about the concealer first. We're gonna do the Ritual Defy concealer. So this is in the lab sample 120. This is definitely too dark for me. So that right there is the lab sample. And it is not entirely my shade. I think it's a little bit too yellow, especially as it reads on my skin. Why did I put it over there? I can't see it over there. I am almost legally blind in my right eye. We'll put it over here where I can actually see what I'm doing. There we go. It doesn't look too dark, but it does dry down. Now I have the Soft Sorcery Concealer in Spell 121 and 111. I bought 111 and it's light, very light, to the point where I actually messaged Credo about returning it and they were like, you know what, we're just going to give you a refund and you keep the concealer. So I was able to order shade 121, which is a slightly better match. It's a little pinker. And I feel like it's a better match on top of my redness, but this one is a better match as far as neutrality goes. Now, the big difference is that these are completely different formulas. I really respect what Ritual Defy did here. So the lab sample was called Ultra High Coverage Plush Wear Creator Concealer. I hate the name. I hate it. It is a mouthful and it's unnecessarily padded out. And it also implies that this is only for creators. And it's very easy to read that as like, oh, that's just for content creators. When I get where they were going with it. I don't like it. It didn't feel like this is a thing for everybody. Soft Sorcery Concealer is, first of all, a nice use of alliteration. I love alliteration. And it's more elegant and it suits the brand better. So that is just generally overall initial impressions. It's also much thinner. It's much more serum-like. They're both really high coverage. They're really high coverage. There is a nice built-up swatch of both of them. So you can see that, first of all, this one's very dark, which is why I went with a lighter shade. But it's also really thick. I remember this creasing under my eyes. I remember it just looking heavy, not taking powder terribly well. It broke up and kind of dotted itself under my eyes by the end of a wear test. And I have enough problems with my under eyes. I don't need that happening. The Soft Sorcery, which has been sitting there for a moment and has a chance to dry down, is just smoother and more even and more blurring, and it's not as heavy. So those are the major differences. It wears entirely differently. It's a different formula. It's a different name. It's like they took the old concealer and just threw it out the window. So I purchased the lab sample, and then they sent out a link to a Google Doc where I was actually able to give them real honest feedback about how I felt about this product and how it looked on my skin, how it wore, and they listened. I even, but I did a video talking about that lab sample, and I went into depth about what was wrong with it and why I didn't like it. I actually linked it, and they watched it, and they listened. They were like, oh, we hear you on that. Okay. Mad props. Mad props to Ritual Defeat. The other product that I initially thought was going to be too light is the Lisa Eldridge Skin Tint in T1. I bought the secondhand, and it was the shade that was available, so I snatched it up. And first of all, formula, gorgeous. So that's Lisa Eldridge in T1, which upon initial impression looks very light. But when you shear it out, it actually matches my skin. It matches my neck. I've never had a foundation that seamlessly blends into my neck as beautifully as this one does. Somewhere in here I will post footage of the actual application, because I'm going out, as soon as I'm done with this video, I'm going to actually apply that, so you'll be able to see the coverage level. All right, I've got concealer staring me dead in the face, so let's talk the Glossier Stretch Concealer in Very Light 4, which I have had matched in store, and I feel like it's a pretty good shade match. It feels a little yellow, but I don't mind a slightly darkened concealer under my eyes because it counteracts brightness, it counteracts blue tones and shine, and just helps smooth that plane and make my eyes look like, my under eyes look like they are actually part of my face. NARS, this is the Soft Matte Complete Concealer in Creme Brulee, which is also my shade in the... Oh, that Glossier just blended in so nicely, I couldn't find the swatch. Yeah, this is my shade in the Creamy Radiant Concealer as well, which I do not have right now because I finished my tube of it and I have not yet replaced it. But that is the mattest and fullest coverage concealer I have. I have Bobbi Brown. This is the Bobbi Brown Stick Concealer in shade Cool Sand. Honestly, with how janky this shade range is, I was surprised they had a shade for me. So these all look like they're going to be really good matches, but I can see that they're like, that has turned pink. The Glossier is blending right in. The Ritual Defeat looks like it's standing out, and I think that's because it's the right undertone. All of this is speculation. All of this is my understanding of my skin tone and color theory, chroma, as it relates to my own makeup. This is not scientific. This is not an expert speaking, okay? So let's put that caveat in there. I am not an expert. I'm not a makeup artist. I am an artist, and I have a pretty good eye for color, contrast, undertone, the way that things blend and work into themselves and each other. Tower 28. This is another really good, almost too light when I first got it. And it's a pretty good match for my undertone. It does stick out, but that's because it matches my neck more than it matches my face. Is that all my concealers? Except for the Givenchy Prism Libre, which for me is one that kind of hops that line of concealer, foundation. I've used it for both, and I've never had a bad experience with it. just build that up a little bit more. So of all of my concealers, this one, which is the Tower 28, looks the most neutral on me. The Glossier disappears into my skin tone. The Glossier is a very good concealer match. And then back here is the Givenchy, which is a little bit too peach. It's just a smidgen too peach for me. I've known that as long as I've had it, that it's just a little bit off. But it's not enough that like an untrained eye is going to look at me and be like, oh, you're wearing a concealer that's completely the wrong shade. I was watching a TV show. I can't remember what it was. It was something reality based. And this woman is sitting there talking to a friend and she's in direct sunlight. And you can see her under eye concealer and like right under her eyes and down her face. And it's just glaringly wrong. It's so dark and so yellow, and I hope that she saw that and fixed it. All right, we're gonna do the Salt New York Sneaky Balm. Mine is in 12 neutral, and the thing I love about what she did with this is they're all neutral, and that disappears too. Now, if I counteract my redness with like a green color corrector, I do have, so I have two products that say that they're green color correcting. This one is a little thin, but it's really good for every day. This one is much thicker. It's much more of a concealer texture. But I think it's really good for experiments like this. And I have tried several. Look at how much more, look at that. Like the color match is kind of bananas. All right, so we're gonna take all of the concealers that I swatched over here and we're gonna do them over here on top of that green color corrector. Yeah, that sounds experimenty. And I'm just gonna go over my melasma and my Rudolph the Red Nose to really truly counteract. I mean, honestly, if I were to do it to my entire face, it would really blend out my redness and look like I was just wearing nothing. Now, do I take the time to do green color corrector? No. But I might start. And this is not going to give me Wicked Witch of the West face. It's very hard to build it up to that level. Oh God, I have one from Neutrogena that's been discarded, but it's still in my life. It's just Kermit paint. If I put it on, I look like Kermit the Frog. Kermit the Frog here. That was a terrible impression. All right, we're gonna skip the lab sample swatch. It's out of here. It's done. I'm gonna put it into my empties and get it out of my life because I was holding on to it just for a quick review. And that's where we are, as well as playing with these concealers. All right, we're gonna go in with the Ritual de Fille again. Y'all, my eyes, like I'm 42, my eyes are not great. And look at how little the writing on the bottom of these is. And that's pretty high, that's high contrast. That's as high contrast as you can get. That's white on black. The Chanel, the Baume Essential, look at, there is actual writing on that label. You'd never know because it's just all white on like a peachy beige. I hate it. It's one of my major pet peeves. All right, so this is shade 121. Nope, this is 111. This is the lightest shade. You see how when we put that over the green color corrector where my skin is more neutralized, it looks yellow. Versus over here, it looks like it works against my, it works with my skin tone. Isn't that wild? It's crazy. All right, shade 121. So this is the one that's a little bit peacher. And look at that against my actual, my neutral skin. It looks pink. It looks pink. All right, what did I swatch next? Oh, the Lisa Eldridge. I'm trying to stay in order so that we can see up here versus up here. Y'all, Lisa Eldridge released a palette inspired by her cat. And I'm not tempted because her palettes are freaking expensive. All right, so that is the Lisa Eldridge Skin Tint in T1. And even against that neutralized base, it looks pink. It looks pink. All right, Glossier. The Glossier Stretch Concealer in Light 4. That actually looks like it's the right shade. It is definitely the right shade for my skin when I haven't color corrected. But after color correction, it does stand out a little bit more. All right, NARS Soft Matte Concealer in Creme Brulee. Again, it's positively peach. Bobbi Brown. It's a little bit on the cooler side. Tower 28. This is DTLA, by the way. All of the Tower 28 concealers are named after neighborhoods in Los Angeles. It's a little bit yellow, but again, I'm more neutral, and these are geared towards my actual skin tone, taking into account my redness. The Givenchy is definitely gonna show up because it is not as much. Not as much as I thought. That's, oh, there it goes. Okay, it's drying down and it's oxidizing just a little bit. Now you can see it. Now you can actually see it. All right. So those are all of my concealers and the Lisa Eldridge Skin Tint. I have 5 foundations in front of me. Oh, I didn't do the Sneaky Balm. Let's do this. That is very neutral. Because when Kiki G designed the Sneaky Balm, her intent was to embrace neutrality instead of veering yellow, veering pink, veering green. And I don't think it works for everybody, but it does work for me nicely. All right, this is so far off. We'll do this on both sides, or I'll do it on my forehead and my cheek so you can see just how off this is. So this is the NARS tinted sunscreen in the shade Gotland. I bought this online. I had no idea what I was doing. They did not have the concealers with the same name as the foundations. So there you can see it is dark to the point where, like, even when I wear it, it looks dark and it feels dark, and I don't really feel all that comfortable wearing it. So this is going to get decluttered. I'm actually going to give this to a friend who has deeper skin than I do. I think she's been looking for something fuller coverage, so I think she'll get along with that. Danessa Myricks. This is her skin tint in the shade 2. So of my like bottled foundations, this is the closest I have to a perfect skin tone match with or without color correction. About face. This is in light one neutral. About face. I love this foundation. It's so pretty. It's so blurring and smoothing and evening, but it is, again, color correction. It looks a little orange versus on my forehead, you can see it pretty well blends in. And it's so pretty. It's got such a nice finish. Oh, I absolutely love this foundation. The Dior, this has been my favorite as of late. This is the 24-hour Skin Forever, I think. So they matched me as slightly cool, but I feel like this shade blends in with or without color correction. Like, it looks yellow upon initial application, but when it's blended in, it does work very nicely. And then our last foundation is going to be the Fenty Eavesdrop, again in shade 2. Where are we putting this? Look at the coverage over that little sunspot I've got. I actually don't think it's a sunspot. I think it's an acne scar, but it's neutral. It's got coverage. So even with my skin neutralized with that green color corrector, it does blend in nicely. So we're going to do a dot of this on my forehead. There you go. So that is just a quickie experiment on undertone and how that affects depth, as well as how your skin pulls, and how if you have something that's too light, you can kind of solve for that with color correction. I think it's really interesting. I don't remember what this one was, but it is oxidized. Was that the NARS? I think that might have been the soft matte, which is okay because when I'm covering a blemish, I want it to be a little darker instead of being too white and turning the blemish pink. All right, I'm going to wash this off. I'm going to wipe this off and do a layer of the Lisa Eldridge. My skin feels really nicely hydrated. Again, I just used a pump of the Prequel Urea stuff. I absolutely am loving that moisturizer. Right now, going into spring, my skin actually feels pretty good. It doesn't feel super dry right now. So I'm not using any color correction. I don't have any concealer on. We're gonna see, you're gonna watch before your eyes as this stuff just magically color corrects and brightens. All right, I'm gonna use the BK 101 to blend that out. It's so pretty. It's blurring. It's got good coverage too for a skin tint. Look at that. Look at how that matches my neck. It's beautiful. It's really beautiful. And it kind of goes against this impression that I have of stuff that's this light that is just going to make me look like a ghost. Because it's light, but it's also neutral. It doesn't pull too yellow. It doesn't pull too pink. It actually pulls pretty nicely. So that will do it for today's video. I hope y'all enjoyed this. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, share, all of that fun stuff. Thank you for spending this time with me. I really appreciate it. I hope you are taking care of yourselves so you can take care of each other, and I will see you all in my next one.